Hey everybody, I know it's late, but we're here. We are doing Catelyn's chapter, and she is meeting up with Robb's brigade of men. Is it brigade? Yeah, that would be a brigade, right? She's being escorted by her uncle Brendan and the Manderly brothers, who are a bit rotund. Not really sure what that's going to have to do with the story, but it's a nice detail. She's realizing that she's about to meet up with Robb, and just a year ago he was just a boy, and now here he is leading this entire army into war over his dad. And she's realizing that she doesn't know who she's going to meet up with right now. Is he still a boy or is he now a man? Basically, she's very afraid of him, but also really, really proud of him as well. So they're heading towards Moat Cailin, and they finally see it, and Brendan's like, what the hell is this? Because it looks really old and run down. But Catelyn tells him, don't worry, it's well fortified, the walls are strong, there's swamp and wetlands around it. It looks bad, but you can basically hold yourself in there for a siege if you need to. So she finally meets up with Robb, and you can tell he's very emotional seeing her, and she's kind of resisting the will to go over to him and give him a big hug in front of all the people because, the lords are there and they're talking strategy, and she doesn't want to embarrass him or anything like that. So Robb greets her, he's happy to see her, but he wonders if Sir Roderick is there with him. I'm sure it's just because that would be a familiar face, and he's a battle guy, so he wouldn't be able to advise him. But she tells him no, she sent him back home to Winterfell to make sure it's safe, because Maester Lewin is at Winterfell, but he's not a war guy. So there needs to be someone there pretty much who can wield a sword and strategize if need be. Roose Bolton is there along with the Umbers and some other people, and he asks if Catelyn has Lord Tyrion with her, because of course they've heard that she was holding him at the Eyrie. She says no, unfortunately the gods saw to see him let him go, which she's not happy about. Apparently she had tried to take Robin along with her because it would do him some good to be along with other boys, but Lysa's not exactly sane, so she said no. So Catelyn asks to talk to Robb by herself, and the men exit. She also sends Theon out of the room. And she's like, Robb, you have the Karstarks, the Umbers, the Boltons, all these other men here. Could you not have sent some of them south to go into battle for you, whatever? And he's like, they're not Starks. She's like, yeah, but they're men, because you're just a kid. And you can tell that he's worried that she's going to send him back home, which would be very embarrassing. And she realizes that and tells him no, she's not going to do that, because how would that look? He starts this war basically, and, well, not starts, but he goes right off into battle with all these men, and the mom sends him home. That would look really bad for him. So she's going to stay and support him. Catelyn wants to know if he's heard anything about the girls. He gives her Sansa's letters, and Catelyn sees immediately that is Cersei's words, not Sansa's. She notices that it doesn't say anything about Arya. Robb says that he had hoped that she still had Tyrion so they could make a trade of hostages, but that's obviously out of the picture. Catelyn wants to know what Robb's afraid of, and he says if we march, even if they win, the Lannisters hold their dad and Sansa and Arya, so even if they win, they might kill them. And Catelyn says that's what they want us to think, and he's like, are you saying that they're lying? She's like, I'm not sure, but obviously they can't take that chance. So Catelyn asks what's been going on with the battles and everything. Robb tells her that the Lannisters sent someone to hold the pass, basically in the Riverlands, and that his dad has sent people, Ned Stark, had sent people to go and secure the land, but that they had fallen to the Lannisters. Basically, from this point, they're talking strategy and what's going to happen. Catelyn wants to know if they're going to hold their place there and fight the Lannisters at Moat Cailin, and he says only if they come this far, but I don't think they're going to, so they're going to basically march south or to the Riverlands and meet them. Robb says their food supplies and everything have been running low, and they can't stay at Moat Cailin, so they've been waiting for the Manderly brothers before they marched on, but now that they're there, they need to move. Robb is talking about how all the different lords think he should do different things, and he's trying to figure out what to do. Catelyn says that's great that they're giving you their advice, but what do you think that you need to do? She's trying to prep him into being command. If he's going to be in that position, she needs to know that he understands that. So she's trying to make him think for himself and figure out what he wants to do. He tells her that there are basically two parts of the Lannister army. One that Tywin is holding and the other that Jaime is holding. Jaime is smaller, but they're separated into two parts. And so he wants to send two brigades or two, what is that called? I don't know. I'm not a war person. He wants to send part of his army to go after Jaime and another part to go after Tywin. And Catelyn's like, that would split up your army and put a river between them. But he says that would also, that's going to put a river between Jaime and his dad's armies to also. Robb says that Great John Umber says that they need to smash Tywin Lannister, and Robb wants to send him over to it because Great John's been dying to kill Tywin. And Catelyn says your father would be fearless, but he would also be cunning. And so Robb rethinks that and says he's going to send Roose Bolton because that man's scary and also cunning. So he's sending Roose Bolton to go against Tywin Lannister. Robb said he's going to go and give the commands and that he's going to send an escort to send Catelyn back to Winterfell, but Catelyn says she wants to stay with Robb to go to Riverrun. Okay, we are on to Tyrion. He is still with the Mountain Men and Bronn, and they have come up to the Lannister army. Tyrion, Bronn, some of the mountain people, Chaga, whatever, they're all going to go down to find Tyrion's dad. The mountain people don't trust him because he promised them some weapons and stuff, and they're like, you're going to give it to us or we're going to cut off your parts and feed them to the goats. So a bunch of them are going to go with he and Bronn to find Tyrion. They come up to the army and Flemont Brax, yeah, that's his name, meets Tyrion. They're like, hey, we thought you were dead. And Tyrion's like, but I'm not. Where's my dad? Tywin has taken up base in the Crossroads Ale House or whatever, and Tyrion's like, huh, go figure. Going back to that place. So they go there. Tyrion leaves his men in the front room so they can get food and meat and everything. He walks into the room and Tywin Lannister is there with his brother Kevin, and Tywin doesn't even move or anything when Tyrion walks in the room. Kevin's like, hey, we thought you were dead. Tyrion's like, nope, I'm just chilling. He's like, don't get up, father. I know you're just trying to control your surprise, but I'm alive. I'm happy. I'm glad you're happy. Not really. Tyrion wants to know how the war is going, and Tywin says, you know, everything's going good. Walder Frey is holding up in the twins, basically trying to figure out who's going to win first before he takes a side because he's a piece of shit like that. The Malicers are holding Surgard, and he's saying that once Jaime comes back from Riverrun, those two will quickly bend the knee to him, and the war will be over pretty much. They tell him that Ned Stark is being held prisoner in the, you know, in the castle, whatever. Tyrion's like, how did that happen? How did my sister convince Robert Baratheon to imprison his own best friend? And they tell him that Robert is dead. Tyrion, of course, is surprised because he didn't know about any of this. And they let him know that Joffrey is now the king of King's Landing. I was about to say Litterfell. I don't even know. Joffrey is the king of King's Landing. Tywin tells him that he's having trouble with the small group of men that Ned Stark sent to fight the mountain, basically, and that they are causing trouble for his troops or whatever, and he wants Tyrion to go fight them. He's really hoping Tyrion's gonna die. I mean, really. But Tyrion's like, hey, I have men of my own, and I want to keep them. Can I? Tywin turns to the mountain men and wants to know what made them come down from the mountains, and they're like, horses, and a promise of, you know, war materials and silk or whatever. And just as they're talking, someone comes in and tells Tywin that the Stark army is moving down the causeway. Tywin turns to the mountain people and says, if you ride with me and my men, you'll have everything my son promised you and more. Like, you're gonna give us money. Why should we wait for what you're gonna promise us when your son has already promised us what we wanted? And he's like, I said, you can have whatever you need and more. And people are scared of you. You're very fierce. Tywin's sweet talking the heck out of them. They fall for it, so they join Tywin's army to go march against Robb. And they say until they get what they want, they're going to hold Tyrion as pretty much a hostage to make sure he pays up. And Tyrion's like, great. Because he would turn over Tyrion in a second. He don't care. Okay, we are on Sansa's chapter. She is roaming around the castle, the Red Keep, headed towards the throne room. Cersei has given her free reign of the castle as long as she has her 2 guards with her and she doesn't leave. She's a captive hostage. She's a hostage in the castle. She really can't leave anyway because there have been Lannister men and Red Cloaks all over, White Cloaks all over the wall protecting the castle. Anyway, she can't go anywhere, but she's a hostage. She's headed towards the throne room, and all of Robert's decorations and tapestries and everything have been torn down. They're like piled in a corner because Joffrey is already moving in. He's changing stuff up. All the lords and ladies and people of importance are gathering into the throne room because Joffrey's about to make some decrees and talk. And he begins by having Maester Pycelle read off all the decrees of the people who are sworn enemies of him at this point. Joffrey is listing off an entire country of people he has now named as enemies. Because he's Joffrey. And I mean, and some of them are turning against him, rightfully so. But it's a whole long list, and Sansa's like, it's everybody. They finally get to the Starks, and she notices that they're listing Arya, that Arya has to come and pledge allegiance to them too. And she's thinking, okay, Arya has fled. She's probably safe at Winterfell by now. He puts Cersei on the small council and names Janos Slynt as the Lord of Harrenhal, and makes him a lord and gives him whatever stuff. And they relieve Sir Barristan Selmy of his duties as commander of the Night's Watch. Night's Watch? King's Watch. He, of course, is upset about this because they've taken an oath for life. He's given up all rights to everything that he owns or had claimed to join the Watch. Not the Watch. I keep saying the Watch. To join the King's Guard. And he's like, what am I supposed to do now? And they're like, oh, we're going to give you some land over by the sea with a pretty view and some people to be your servants. And he's like, yeah, basically people to watch me, hold me there, report back to you, and then when I die, they can bury me. What is that going to do? He's pissed. He takes off all his stuff. He throws down his sword and curses the king, whatever. He marches out of the room. Joffrey's like, he called me boy and talked about my uncle. He's probably plotting against me. I want him seized and questioned. So Janos Slynt goes after him. They say they now have an open seat in the King's Guard, and they pronounce the Hound as part of the King's Guard. The Hound says he doesn't care. He doesn't have a wife or lands to think of, so there's no problem to him, but he's not saying any vows. He's going to do stuff, but on his terms. It's respectable. They ask if anyone else has anything to say before the king. Sansa steps forward. At this point, no one's been looking at her or talking to her. It's like she's dead. People know that her dad's been proclaimed a traitor, so they want nothing to do with her. She's like, it's completely different than it was before. Sansa steps forward and says she asks for mercy for her father, you know, the hand of the king. And Cersei's like, what did I tell you? Traitor's blood. And Varys is like, she's just a kid, poor little thing. She doesn't know what she's asking. Lord Baelish says, you know, do you know, are you denying your father's crimes? And she's saying, no, I don't deny his crimes at all. I'm just saying that he had fought before. He had an injury to his leg. Mr. Pycelle was giving him milk of the poppy. He didn't know exactly what he was saying, and he would never try to betray the king. Varys, God bless him. He's like, oh, a child's innocence. How sweet. Sansa says to Joffrey, if you love me like you say you do, you will let me do this for my father. And Joffrey says, your sweet words have moved me, blah, blah, blah. I will allow your father to confess, and if he confesses, I'll show him mercy. And Sansa says that he will. It's almost sad. Even if you didn't watch the show, reading this, you had to like know it was not going to turn out well. Like the way it's written, you can feel that it's starting to get like more and more tense ever since Ned was taken in the throne room. Of course, I have skipped a whole bunch of stuff. There's a lot of strategy and stuff in Robb's chapter. Tywin and Tyrion went back and forth a lot. Sir Barristan had a lot of like, he had a bunch of paragraphs of just like talking about how offended he was by this. So, of course, again, if you have the books, read them. If you don't have the books, go buy them. But I summed it up as best as I could. And that's it for today. I will see you tomorrow for the next 3 chapters. We're on a roll. We're doing it. It might be late, but it's up today. That's it. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.